episode of Death Parade. There's excitement going round, there's a party going down with Twister, the hot spot. That's right, my friends, this week's episode of Death Parade featured the game Twister, one of my favorite games from my childhood. This week's episode was fantastic. It was so fresh when compared to the rest of the series, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that in this week's episode, we're going to be playing a game in Ginty's Japanese-themed bar. Ginty himself is completely different from Decim in every single way. All the way down to the way he describes the rules of the games, to the way the game is actually played. He almost seems completely uninterested until the very end of the game when things start to get really serious. But this week's episode was a really great mix of really funny comedy and surprisingly disturbing imagery and storytelling. And that's, again, what makes this series just so incredibly infectious. That and the gorgeous animation, of course. But let's just talk about the highlights. So the episode opens up with this girl, Mayu, finally arriving through the elevator, and she goes to Ginty's bar, and Ginty just immediately gets right into it. He's like, you're gonna be playing with this dude right here, who happens to be Hirata of this very popular idol group, CHA, or Cross Heart Attack. Get prepared to hear that a lot in this week's episode, and it just so happens that Mayu is completely infatuated with this group. So her dream has come true. Not only is she hanging out with the lead member of the group, but she gets to play Twister with him. But this is Death Parade, so the rules are going to be kind of strange. At first, it's pretty much standard Twister. But in the middle of the game, Ginty gets up and he says he's going to up the ante a little bit. And you can tell that he's really enjoying himself. And unlike Decim, who secretly uses his little remote control to activate like the twists in the game, this guy pulls it out for everyone to see. Suddenly the Twister board starts to change. All the different color dots turn to these elemental symbols. Ice, fire, wind. Whatever you touch is going to have a massive effect. You touch fire, it's going to burn. You touch the air, it's going to start blowing you up in the air and you're going to lose your balance. You hit the frickin' ice, you're going to start freezing. And that leads to what could be possibly one of the funniest scenes from the entire series, at least to me anyway. There's a scene where it's Hirata's turn and he's getting frozen and his entire body is covered in ice and he's trying to like break himself out of it, and when he finally does, all of his clothes rip off and he does this amazing, almost dance style move and manages to make it to his circle. It's a really funny moment right there. But this is when things have to get really serious. In order to up the ante a little bit and to draw out the darkness of his two competitors, Ginty decides to make the entire Twister board drop to the floor except for the pieces that they are standing on, and below them is a massive pit filled with spikes. And the only way that the opponent is going to win is if someone else falls first. And I'm guessing this is why he's trying to get one of them to push the other over. But none of that actually happens, and this is when we finally learn the circumstances of their deaths, which are both kind of ironically funny in one sense and just kind of unfair, and the other one is kind of understandable and pretty freaky when you think about it. So let's talk about Hirata's first, which is definitely the most interesting. Through the episode, they start to explain that he's kind of a womanizer. He's been known for hitting it up with a lot of ladies, and there was this one part of the backstory where it's with this woman named Kana, and he broke it off with her, and, you know, he's done this a million times, so he's just being really casual about it, but he really doesn't realize what he's done to this woman, and she ends up killing herself. So later on in the episode, they reveal that this new girl he's been dating is actually the sister of that woman, and she actually sets him up and puts a bomb right next to him as he wakes up, and it goes off, killing him. It's really disturbing how many murders that we've actually seen in the show and how devious they can be. Despite that, Hirata himself really doesn't come across as that bad of a person. You know, he is a little shallow in some aspects, but by the end of the episode, he's one of the most funny characters I've seen from the entire series. And that brings us to Mayu's death, which still, to me, just, it's so unfair. She really didn't deserve it at all. There's a scene where she's in her home, she's getting ready to go into the bathroom and take a shower, and she's singing one of her favorite Cross Heart Attack songs, ironically, and as soon as she walks in, she steps on some soap, slips back, hits herself on the head, and that's how she dies. It's kind of funny, I'm not going to lie, but it's incredibly depressing. She happens to take the whole being dead thing in complete stride, and this is probably the best part of the episode, when Mayu herself actually decides to throw herself into the pit, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's basically lived out her final moment on her bucket list. She's been able to hang out with her idol Hirata. She doesn't even mind the fact that he's known as a womanizer. She's just glad to be a fan. She throws herself over, and right as she's about to hit the spikes turn into a big puffy balloon. This was all just a big mind game, of course, from Ginty. So the episode ends with both characters coming to terms with their death. Hirata a little hard at first. He's actually having a drink at the bar, still completely buck naked. And then, of course, Mayu comes in all dressed up and looking fancy, and that's pretty much the end of the episode, with just both of the characters seeing each other again, being happy and flirting. And then in the post-credit scene, Hirata is giving a show to the workers of wherever this place is, all the different like managers and bartenders of the Quindecim. It's really strange and it's a really funny scene, and they don't follow up on where they're going to go, Reincarnation of the Void. It's completely left up to the viewer. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Death Parade? Another amazing episode. This show completely surprises me with every new one, especially because I've been trying to like figure out how things are going to go down from the intro, and I've been completely wrong each time, especially with this character who is in the intro quite a bit and featured, and they basically just turn her into a competitor. And this is going to be a short show, so obviously she's going to be one of the more memorable ones, and I think that's true. She was just really funny throughout the whole episode. You really just got into her whole infectious love of being with one of her favorite idols. It was really funny. The thing I really loved most about this episode was just how it was so different from the other ones because of Ginty and his bar. The entire design of it was just so amazing. I loved it. It really fits his character too, and I love that he has like a little cat. I think his name was Mimine or Meow or something around those lines. It was really funny. Do not piss off the cat, apparently. But Ginty himself, just the way he plays the game and does the rules and everything, just so much more menacing and sinister than Decim. He doesn't even seem like he even cares that much. He's basically just there doing his job, trying to make a paycheck. Like, he's just there, it's another day. However, he did seem to enjoy himself a little bit more when he was trying to draw out their darkness at the end of the episode. And just the fact that it was Twister and they couldn't actually say Twister, like whenever the game actually popped up for the first time, they didn't show you what it was, but she said Twi? And you're like, huh? And my first thought was, it's not going to be Twister, is it? And as soon as I walk in, you see the board, you just get really excited. Everybody's played Twister. It's so fun. If you have not played it, play it now. God, I need to go get that game right now, and we need to have a freaking Twister party. On the technical side of things, animation, artwork, absolutely gorgeous and amazing. The character designs are really great and very distinctive. Not one character looks like the other, and I think that's really impressive for this show. Although, they do have a very small cast of characters at a time, so that's how they're able to pull that off. Otherwise, this was a fantastic episode right here that's completely left up to interpretation for the viewer, yet this was still a very nice, funny, and still had some dark elements to it, and it was just nice to see another game take place in another bar. I cannot recommend this series enough. It continues to impress me with its creativity and the quality. It has not dropped whatsoever. Check out Death Parade if you haven't seen it yet. It is absolutely amazing, and so was this week's episode, which I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. Check it out, guys. Amazing stuff. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. And before you go, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Death Parade. What did you think of the Twister game with Mayu and Hirata? What did you think of Ginty's bar? And what do you want to see from the rest of Death Parade? Before you guys leave, please subscribe to our channel if you have not already. You can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. It's real easy to do. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And make sure to check out the 3rd episode of our brand new video podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast, in the description box below. Thank you guys for watching. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out. Happy Friday the 13th!